Here's David Torgerson of Lucid with insights on FedRAMP.
This isn't going to come as a surprise. Security issues and challenges and risks have been around since the dawn of time. What the biggest challenge that the agencies face is how do they enable productivity in an ever-changing digital transformation world while maintaining the security that isolation has granted and provided. So there's these fantastic tools, but it comes at the cost, potentially, of increasing risk to the environment. So the biggest challenges that these agencies face is how do we enable digital transformation? How do we enable best of breed tools? How do we increase productivity while maintaining the underlying security that is required in working in these environments?
When you talk about maintaining the security that isolation has enabled, are you only referring to cybersecurity, or is it a more broad network security concept that you're talking about there?
It's both the digital and the physical aspect of it. So consider a software utility that does something simple like provide a visual representation of an office floor plan and where people sit. That might seem simple, but under the covers, that exposes an organization to key individuals and where they're physically at in a building. When you start talking about social engineering or spear phishing attacks or even physical attacks, that type of data all of a sudden becomes valuable. So in the past, you could have something up on the wall, physical. If you've got physical access to the room, you can go and look and see where people sit. When that moves to the cloud, all of a sudden that physical data becomes at risk, and it's essential that both the software providers as well as the agencies take that into consideration of how does this sensitive data be protected, especially in a world where it's not immediately obvious that the data should be sensitive. Depending on who you talk to, an individual may not consider a seating chart sensitive. But when it comes to an attacker, any amount of data becomes ammunition to elevate their access and to gain trust and to build trust and rapport. So, it is essential that all data in these environments be maintained as confidential, because the reality is the attacker is going to be creative. These bad actors are creative.
You talked about the balance between security and productivity, and that, I think, well hits at the heart of the customer experience challenge that agencies are thinking about now, I would say over the last 2 years for the first time. What is it like for our employees to go about doing their jobs, and what can we do to facilitate that? What's the right balance between those two pieces, between making the thing easy enough for people to use it, that they'll want to use it and enjoy using it, and yet making it secure enough that you're not at risk of exposing the kind of information that you just described?
Absolutely. And this is where it requires a pivot in mindset. And we can touch on how FedRAMP is helping with this. But the pivot in mindset is, I don't think that you have to decrease security to enable digital transformation. I think that's the core challenge to address. But what it requires is thinking about security differently. Instead of trying to duplicate the security controls that exist in a physical world. An example, if we were to look at vehicles and cars, when cars were first invented, they were faster. They also were far more severe when you got in an accident because there wasn't any sort of restraint. The fix wasn't to make the car go slower. The fix wasn't to get rid of the car. It was to invent seatbelts and then airbags and other advancements in crumble design and things like that. That shift in mindset of how do we keep the individual going slow so that they don't get hurt when they run into a tree, that's the wrong mindset. It's how do we enable the vehicle to go fast while maintaining safety? In the digital transformation world, it's very similar. The fix isn't we have to have isolation and offline access only. It's how do we simulate that while enabling organizations to go fast? And the ways that we do that